Mike Tyson earned more money than almost any athlete of his generation. By the time he was 20 years old, he was the youngest heavyweight champion in the history of boxing. By his mid-30s, he had reportedly earned more than $300 million. And then, with all of it, the mansions, the cars, the tigers, the gold, he walked into a courtroom and filed for bankruptcy. Not because the money stopped coming, because of something almost nobody understands about how money actually works. This is the story of what Mike Tyson bought with $300 million, and the single lesson his fortune can still teach you today. Here is the number that should stop you in your tracks. In 2003, Mike Tyson filed for bankruptcy, reportedly around $23 million in debt. Read that again. A man who had earned an estimated $300 million was, on paper, worth less than nothing. Millions of dollars underwater. He didn't lose it in one reckless night at a casino. A single disaster didn't wipe him out. What happened to Tyson's fortune was slower, quieter, and far more common than you would ever guess. And by the time we reach the end, you'll start to see the very same pattern hiding in ordinary lives. Maybe even in your own. Start with how the money came in, because it didn't trickle, it flooded. Tyson turned professional at 18, and at 20 he became the youngest man ever to hold the heavyweight title. In his prime, he wasn't merely winning fights. He was a global event, the sport's single biggest draw. His purses reportedly ran into the tens of millions of dollars for a single night's work. At his absolute peak, some of his fights are said to have paid him $30 million or more for one appearance in the ring. Layer on the endorsements, the pay-per-view money, and the appearance fees, and for a stretch, Tyson stood among the highest-paid athletes anywhere on Earth. To put it in perspective, plenty of successful people work an entire lifetime and never earn what Tyson could bring home from a single night under the lights. The tap wasn't just open, it was a fire hose, and for years it never seemed to shut off. And when money arrives that fast, at that scale, a dangerous illusion sets in, the belief that it will simply always be there. But here is the trap already forming, the one that catches so many high earners. A giant income and real, lasting wealth are not the same thing. They are not even close. And Mike Tyson's life is the clearest proof of that you will ever see. So what does $300 million actually buy? In Tyson's case, the answer became almost legendary. He reportedly owned a fleet of luxury cars, Bentleys, Rolls-Royces, Lamborghinis, Ferraris, that at various points is said to have numbered well over 100 vehicles. He bought mansions, more than one, sprawling estates fitted with every amenity you could imagine, from private pools to nightclub-sized entertainment rooms. Most famously of all, he kept Bengal tigers as house pets, reportedly paying somewhere around $140,000 for each cat, and then another reportedly six-figure sum every year for a professional trainer to feed them and keep them under control. There was the jewelry, too. A reported gold bathtub said to have cost well over $1 million, a diamond-encrusted watch, gold chains worth six figures on their own. And surrounding all of it was the entourage. Friends, staff, security, and hangers-on, many of them reportedly kept on his personal payroll year after year. An entire small economy of people whose income depended on Tyson's spending, never slowing down. There were the parties, the travel, the gifts. The birthday celebrations said to run into the hundreds of thousands of dollars. Taken one at a time, each of these is a jaw-dropping headline. But stacked together, they add up to something more important, a rate of spending that no income, no matter how enormous, could outrun forever. And this is the part that actually matters, the part worth slowing down for. Tyson's problem was never that he couldn't earn. It's that nothing in his life was built to keep. By many accounts, there were no real guardrails around the money, no disciplined structure quietly turning that massive income into assets that would pay him later. Money came in, and money went right back out, often faster than it arrived. On top of that, his finances were, by numerous accounts, badly managed by the people he had trusted to handle them. He would later take legal action against his longtime promoter, reportedly suing for earnings he believed had been withheld, and eventually settling for a fraction of what he sought. Then add the taxes on all those enormous purses, the legal bills, and a day-to-day lifestyle designed for a champion who assumed the giant paydays would never end. It all compounded. This is the quiet mechanism that drains even the largest fortunes. Not one dramatic catastrophe, but 1,000 small leaks running at once, and no system anywhere to plug a single one of them. So eventually the math did what math always does. It caught up. When the biggest paydays began to slow, the spending didn't slow with them. And in 2003, the once undisputed heavyweight champion of the world, a man who had reportedly earned $300 million over his career, stood in a bankruptcy court roughly $23 million in debt. Everything that fortune had bought, all the cars and the mansions and the gold, couldn't begin to cover what the lifestyle around them had truly cost. It is a staggering fall, and it would be easy to file it away under wild celebrity excess and move on with your day. But doing that would mean missing the entire point. Because the reason Tyson's fortune vanished is the same reason that ordinary paychecks vanish month after month, just carried out on a scale most of us can barely picture. Here is where Tyson's story turns, and why it deserves to be told with respect rather than mockery. He didn't vanish. Slowly, and far more quietly than he had once lived, he began to rebuild. He took the raw material of his own life and turned it into a one-man stage show that ran to real acclaim. He leaned into a second career of appearances and cameos, and later built one of the most popular podcasts around. He launched a business under his own name. He stepped back into the ring for exhibition paydays decades after his prime had passed. And crucially, by many accounts, he did all of it while living far more modestly than the man who once bought tigers on a whim. The second act was never about earning another $300 million. It was about finally learning the one lesson the first $300 million had never managed to teach him. Keep what you build. So here is the single thing to carry away from all of this. Income is not wealth. What you make is not what you keep. And the gap between those two numbers is exactly where fortunes and ordinary financial lives are quietly won or lost. Mike Tyson did not go broke because he earned too little. He went broke because nothing he owned was built to hold what he earned. And that cuts both ways. A person on a modest salary who quietly keeps a piece of every single paycheck and puts it somewhere that grows can end up wealthier than a champion who made $300 million and kept almost none of it. The tigers and the gold tub make Tyson's version unforgettable. Still, the machinery underneath it is completely ordinary. Spending that rises to meet every raise, an income treated as if it will last forever, and nothing set aside that quietly works while you sleep. Strip away the zeros, and it's the same trap that catches people on every rung of the ladder. But the hopeful half is just as real. Tyson's rebuild proves it is never too late to start over, at any number, from any hole. As long as you finally decide to keep more than you spend, that is the whole game, not what comes in, what stays. If this made you look at your own money even a little differently, then it did its job, because that's the whole reason this channel exists. the real stories behind the fortunes and the lessons quietly hiding inside them. Subscribe and stick around, because the next story is about someone who built a fortune in a completely different way. And what they chose to do with it might be the smartest money move on this entire channel. You won't want to miss that one.